Combined arms theory is a military concept that calls for the combination and synchronization of military assets or capabilities to defeat the enemy. It is based on the idea that no single weapon system or military unit can achieve victory alone, and that a coordinated effort between multiple arms of the military is necessary. Combined arms theory can be traced back to World War I, when advancements in technology and tactics led to the need for more sophisticated and coordinated military operations. This theory requires a high degree of coordination and communication. It requires the development of standardized procedures and protocols, as well as the training of military personnel in the use of these procedures. In order to achieve this, a strong military leadership structure is necessary in order to ensure that everyone involved in the mission is working towards the same objective. Furthermore, a thorough understanding of the strengths and limitations of each type of military unit is required. Despite being a major military power, Russia has struggled to execute combined arms theory effectively on the battlefield. This has been demonstrated in a number of conflicts, including the 2008 war in Georgia and the ongoing conflict in Ukraine. In both of these conflicts, Russia's military has faced criticism for its lack of coordination and synchronization between different branches, as well as its inability to adapt its tactics and strategies to changing circumstances on the battlefield. So what are the root causes of Russia's poor execution of combined arms theory? Well, the answer is complex and multifaceted, but some experts have pointed to a lack of investment in both modern military technology and training, as well as a lack of political will to undertake the necessary reforms required. Additionally, the centralization of power within Russian military leadership has also been questioned, said to be a contributing factor in limiting the ability of field commanders to exercise mission command. In this video, we will explore combined arms theory and its application. We'll look into the Battlespace operating systems and how these underpin the successful execution of combined arms theory. Finally, we will examine the Second Battle of Fallujah in 2004 and how the credit for success in this battle is owed to the application of the combined arms approach. Whether you're a student of military history or simply interested in the science of war, this video is for you. My name is Zero Foxtrot, and if this is your first time on the channel, I welcome you. Roll the intro. Before we discuss combined arms theory, it is imperative that we introduce a few key concepts that will assist me in my explanations. Now, this preamble will be no means exhaustive, as we could easily spend an hour deep diving these concepts. I simply want to provide the basis for the remainder of the video, as many of these pieces of terminology simply nest within the foundations of combined arms theory. The first acronym that we are going to explain is the Battlefield Operating System, or BOS. BOSes are the major functions performed by the force on the battlefield to successfully execute operations directed by the operational commander. Now, I'm sure this definition left many people scratching their heads, wondering what it all means. Well, before I break down the 8 different BOS concepts, let me try and make it easy to understand. Put simply, the BOS concepts is a system that breaks up all the military assets into a capability, of which the commander can then lay these assets to mask one asset's weakness and shield it with the strength of another. Employing these BOS concepts collectively and with synergy assures the commander that the force deployed is being used as effectively as possible, whilst minimizing the risk of exposed weaknesses. Now, a quick caveat to this breakdown. Different militaries and defence forces may use a different term to BOS or combined arms theory, but let me be clear, the concept or premise is exactly the same. Okay, with that out of the way, let's break down these BOS concepts to further support your understanding of combined arms theory. The 8 BOS concepts are maneuver, intelligence, surveillance and reconnaissance, offensive support, combat service support, air defence, mobility and survivability, command, communicate and control, and information operations. Let's look into these further. The maneuver BOS concerns the positioning of friendly ground-based forces relative to the enemy. Specifically, the key to success on the battlefield is to maneuver by fire and movement to achieve a position of advantage over the enemy. The key function of the BOS is to strike an enemy principally through engagement in close combat, utilising infantry, armoured assets and aviation force elements. The intent behind these engagements is to achieve surprise, shock, momentum, battlespace shaping and moral dominance. The manoeuvre BOS has 3 characteristics. These include firepower, mobility and protection. The firepower characteristic is best explained as the dynamic element of combat, and these assets include but are not limited to tanks, infantry, and attack aviation. The mobility elements of the BOS are assets such as motorised and mechanised infantry, armour, and air-mobile assets. Depending on the terrain, different mobility assets are employed to enable manoeuvre within the battle space. For example, dismounted light infantry has the greatest mobility in some complex terrain such as mountainous regions or the jungle, or rotary wing assets may be more optimal in the littoral environment. Finally, units in the manoeuvre BOS gain protection from either their physical level of protection, such as the armour, or their firepower or a combination. A light force on the move has little protection, but in defence or complex terrain, its protection and survivability are dramatically increased. It is important to note that protection can be gained through the use of deception, stealth, and speed of movement. The requirement for information about the enemy and environment drives the intelligence cycle, which in turn tasks reconnaissance and surveillance assets. ISR underpins manoeuvrous plans through information and decision superiority. It further provides situational awareness and early warning to a commander, and therefore assists with gaining and maintaining the knowledge edge. The ISR BOS operates across a spectrum of conflict and throughout the battle space. It is primarily focused on shaping the development of successful operational plans and the monitoring of the adversary and key stakeholders within the battle space. Assets that operate under the ISR BOS include but are not limited to infantry recon, drones, rotary wing assets, and cavalry. The offensive support BOS contributes significantly to the destruction effect of enemy capability. There's a lot of technical elements which must be synchronised effectively and accurately with the manoeuvre plan in order to ensure safety to our own forces. Offensive support includes indirect fire support through artillery or mortars, naval gun support, offensive air support, and non-lethal means. The Combat Service Support BOS is divided into 6 functions. These include transport, supply, maintenance, health, personnel, and engineer sustainability support. The art of logistics is to develop a simple, flexible plan which is able to be adjusted to support manoeuvre warfare. It is a combat multiplier if done correctly, and a burden if done poorly. These assets are largely considered a high value target to commanders as they enable combat. There is a saying in the military, and that is that amateurs talk tactics, but professionals study logistics. Logistics, although possessing some organic security, are vulnerable and are often targeted by the enemy. Therefore, often protection assets are attached onto logistics in order to provide additional security, further supporting frontline troops. The Air Defence BOS contributes significantly to the provision of effective airspace management. It includes all systems and personnel designed to nullify or reduce the effectiveness of air attack by hostile aircraft and missiles. The sighting of these assets are usually employed relating to area, point, or route defences. It involves interception, engagement, destruction, and neutralisation. The effective employment of air defence resources in war depends on accurate assessment of the threat posed by the enemy air weapon platforms. These include reconnaissance assets, close air support, electronic warfare, transport assets, and strategic strike capabilities. The Mobility and Survivability BOS contributes to knowing and shaping the physical dimension in support of the manoeuvre plan. The MS BOS generates 5 types of support that are integrated throughout the MS effort. These include geospatial, mobility, counter-mobility, survivability, and sustainability support. The capability that usually comes to mind when people think about the MS BOS are engineers, and they would be correct. Engineers support the area denial through the employment of minefields and trenches. They also support manoeuvre elements through obstacle breaching and the reduction of minefields. It is imperative to remember though that these are deliberate taskings that generally cannot be completed without security, meaning that again we look to a layered approach to the operation where multiple assets come together in order to achieve a mission. More on this later. Command includes such functions as coordinating and controlling military forces to accomplish assigned missions. It also includes a responsibility for health, welfare, morale, and discipline. Control is a means by which a commander ensures that his or her plans are implemented in accordance with a scheme of manoeuvre. Command and control cannot be accomplished without the existence of two-way communications. Without communications, commands cannot be passed from the commander to subordinates, and likewise, subordinates communicating with each other. Basic to any control system is the incorporation of a reliable communications network. In reality, the more remote the commander is from the scene of action, the more dependent he becomes upon rapid, reliable communications. Many would consider the communications between assets to be the most important of the BOS concepts. C3 is used by military organisations to coordinate, monitor and direct the activities of military personnel, assets and resources. The C3 BOS provides a centralised interface for military commanders and staff to access and share information, make decisions and control the execution of operations. The commanding aspect of this BOS is responsible for the synchronization of all BOS concepts. Information operations in the military refer to the use of information-related capabilities to affect an adversary's decision-making and behaviour. This includes the use of electronic systems and information technology, as well as psychological and informational tactics, to influence an adversary's understanding of a situation and their subsequent actions. I/O encompasses a wide range of activities, including cyber operations, psychological operations, military deception, public affairs, and operational security. I/O is a critical aspect of modern warfare, as the flow of information and the ability to control information have become increasingly important in the battle space. By leveraging I/O, military organisations can gain a significant advantage over an adversary, disrupting their ability to respond effectively to a situation and shaping the battlefield to their advantage. Now that was a lot to get through, but I assure you, if you have a basic understanding of the battle operating systems, combined arms theory will be a walk in the park. Combined arms is a military concept that calls for the combination and synchronization of the BOS concepts to defeat an enemy and to seize, occupy and defend terrain. By synchronizing combined arms and applying them simultaneously, military leaders can achieve a greater effect than if each element was used separately or sequentially. Combined arms draws its effectiveness from balancing the capabilities and limitations of each one of these systems and from the synergy of their combined effort. This is challenging work, and not every military can do this well. So why is combined arms theory so important? Firstly, it increases effectiveness. By combining different types of assets and capabilities, military forces can achieve a higher level of effectiveness on the battlefield. This allows military forces to engage an adversary from multiple angles and increases their chances of success. Number 2, it enhances flexibility. Combined arms operations allow military forces to be more flexible and adaptable in their operations. This is because military forces can bring different assets and capabilities to bear, depending on their situation and the needs of the operation. Number 3, it improves coordination. A combined arms operation emphasises the importance of coordinating between assets and capabilities. This allows military forces to work together more effectively, reducing the risk of confusion and increasing the chances of success. Number 4, it increases strategic operations. Combined arms operations provide military forces with a wider range of strategic options. This is because military forces can use different assets and capabilities to achieve their objectives, allowing them to be more creative and innovative in their operations. Lastly, it provides synergy. By integrating different assets and capabilities, military forces can create a synergistic effect. This means that the whole is greater than the sum of its parts, as the combined capabilities of different assets can achieve a more powerful outcome. Combined arms theory is therefore a critical concept in military operations, as it seeks to enhance the effectiveness and efficiency of military forces. By leveraging the full range of assets and capabilities available to the military forces, combined arms operations can increase the chances of success and provide more flexible and adaptive approaches to operations. With a basic understanding of combined arms theory, let's look at an example of some of these BOS concepts coming together in order to achieve a task. For this example, we're going to look into a clearance of complex terrain, the Second Battle of Fallujah. The role that air support played in the Battle of Fallujah affirms the relevancy of combined arms approach. Throughout the battle, Marines on the ground used close air support to clear potential threats whilst advancing on foot. The Battle of Fallujah was defined by rigid urban combat against a heavily entrenched enemy force. As such, physical units of Marines were often at the disadvantage against these fortified insurgents. The Marine Corps executed the operation, utilising a combined arms approach by coordinating highly precise airborne munitions with the tactical realities observed by the commanders on the street. Throughout the conflict, units of Marine Corps infantry relied on air support to gain the combat advantage over the insurgents, who may have possessed superior cover or positioning. This displays a combined arms approach to warfighting because it paired the strength of one asset, being the aircraft, with the perceived weakness of the infantry units. The infantry in Fallujah was the main effort, and they had to use all available resources to ensure that they could accomplish the mission at hand. Urban close support is a difficult task with costly implications if performed improperly. From the start, the air component was able to focus on the urban area and provide major advantages scarcely seen in urban warfare. These included expanded situation awareness down to the tactical level, rapid precision strikes, and airlift support. Artillery and other forms of indirect fire observed in Fallujah also show the ability that a combined arms approach has in improving the overall combat power of an advancing force. Marine Corps ground units in Fallujah were able to coordinate indirect fire from a safe distance in order to expose insurgents operating with the heavily fortified buildings. The tactical decisions made by units pinned down by insurgents focused all aspects of available firepower to regain control of the situation and ultimately the city. Marine artillery units in Fallujah fired a total of 5,685,000 artillery rounds into the perimeter of the city during the duration of the battle. This appears to confirm the degree at which infantry units relied on the combined arms approach, the effective use of artillery and ground support to overcome the unique challenges presented by this form of urban combat. A final aspect of the combined arms approach which altered the outcome of Fallujah was the comprehensive use of strategic communication strategies. This may appear esoteric in comparison to the previously mentioned examples. The classic pairing of infantry units with direct fire and indirect fire has usually dominated discussions surrounding the combined arms engagements. However, as new attention is given to the use of information operations to shape the tactical picture, it becomes clear that the combined arms strategy ought to also integrate information as a form of warfare. Perhaps ahead of its time, this integration already occurred in Fallujah in 2004. To fully understand the significance of this idea, one must understand the history surrounding the First Battle of Fallujah. There, insurgent forces employed an especially effective propaganda campaign, which essentially broke the political will of the US to continue its initial attack. Insurgents were actively fighting with US forces in the city, whilst also producing doctored images to depict atrocities that Americans were allegedly committing against civilians. The American forces were heavily affected by the political fallout from these images and adjusted their tactical and operational behaviour accordingly. In the Second Battle of Fallujah, the Marine Corps applied an aggressive communication strategy which focused on embedding journalists and framing the attack as a coalition effort. Here, insurgent propaganda held no weight due to the comprehensive and tailored narrative presented by the US forces. This communication strategy did not contribute physical rounds or fires to the infantry on the ground. It did, though, directly affect the tactical environment by adjusting civilian perspective and weakening the total efforts by the insurgents to stop the US advance. In the age of information, the deliberate framing of communication is as much a part of the combined arms approach as artillery rounds or laser-guided munitions. The dual analysis of the First and Second Battles of Fallujah proves as much. The Second Battle of Fallujah was decisive military engagement that placed the Marine Corps in highly complex urban terrain. Despite facing determined opposition with significant defences, Marines were able to secure the perimeter from insurgent populations. The credit for success in this battle is owed to the application of a combined arms approach. Such an approach pitted the disciplined and well-trained infantry on the ground with a wide array of direct and indirect fire systems. This support, combined with a well-defined communication strategy, focused the sum total of American power to defeat the enemy. In this video, we outline the strategic importance of combined arms theory and how the synergy between military assets and shielding of weaknesses is essential for operational success. We also broke down the different battlespace operating systems and how these nest within the larger combined arms approach. These BOS concepts allow military commanders to effectively navigate the challenges associated with operational planning and support a layered approach to the scheme and manoeuvre. We then discussed the 2004 Battle of Fallujah and how the operation employed an array of assets in support of the objective. As previously discussed, many nations may use different terminology related to both the BOS and combined arms theory, but as the complexity and advancements of warfare and technology continues, the concept remains the exact same. Armed with this information, we can now begin to gain an understanding of current conflicts, such as the Russia-Ukraine conflict. What are some of the challenges you see in Russia's invasion? Is Russia adapting and utilising their assets to their full capacity? In the near future, I think I would deep dive this topic, so I hope you would join me on that analysis. I would like to take this opportunity to thank you for supporting my channel. I put a lot of work and analysis into my videos, so if you like the content, perhaps think about hitting that subscribe button. Noting the changes in the geopolitical environment, I bid you farewell. Stay safe and stay informed, This is Zero Foxtrot, out.